On December 18, 2025, John Travolta suddenly appeared across U.S. media outlets with headlines revolving around a secret reproductive arrangement and allegations of incest raised within the same legal filing connected to the Presley family. What left the public confused, however, was that Travolta was not under investigation, not being sued, and was not the subject of any criminal allegation. So what was actually happening, and why was a star standing outside the dispute pulled into such a heavy and disturbing narrative? This is a civil lawsuit, yet the file forces readers to pause from the very first pages, not because the dispute itself is legally complex, but because of how it is told. In essence, the case revolves around money, services, and agreements that are alleged to have been breached. Two individuals largely unknown to the public, Bridget Cruz and Kevin Fial, claim they invested money and labor while working for Priscilla Presley, helping to develop and protect the Presley brand during a particularly sensitive period. According to the plaintiff's account, that relationship did not end with proper compensation, but with their removal from agreements and exclusion from a system they themselves had helped build. Cruz and Fial accuse Priscilla Presley of benefiting from their work and investments, only to sever ties without providing fair payment, conduct described as burning the bridge after crossing it. But the filing does not stop at financial figures. And although Travolta is not the center of the lawsuit, why is it being narrated through deeply private stories about him? Stories that sent the media into shock. From that point on, the entire case begins to reveal a different nature. No longer merely about money, but about control and the strategic use of storytelling within legal proceedings. When the filing was amended, the structure of the argument began to shift. Instead of focusing solely on proving the value of the work performed and the resulting financial damages, the document expanded into another layer: family context. It was precisely at this point that the familiar boundaries of a civil lawsuit began to tilt. The Presley family, which had not been the original focus of the dispute, entered the legal text, not as new defendants, but as a backdrop used to redefine the entire conflict. The question was no longer whether the family-related allegations were right or wrong, but why a monetary dispute felt compelled to expand into the realm of private life. In the amended version, the Presley family appears not as an independent subject of the dispute, but as the underlying framework that the plaintiffs claim shaped the entire course of conduct, decision-making, and eventual breakdown of the working relationship. The allegations are arranged along a consistent axis: control over the legacy, shifts in power within the family, and behaviors that the plaintiffs describe as exceeding the normal boundaries of a professional working environment. Cruz and Fial allege that Priscilla Presley used her personal authority to control the entire working and financial structure connected to the Presley brand, while failing to establish clear payment arrangements. They claim that Priscilla required them to perform management, strategic, media, and crisis response services without formal contracts, and then cut them out of the system once the benefits had been secured. According to the plaintiff's argument, Priscilla's decisions were personal in nature and fluctuated with family conflicts, resulting in financial commitments being canceled or delayed. Statements attributed to Priscilla, including the quote, "I am the queen, I rule Graceland," are included in the filing as support for the claim that control over the legacy was exercised according to personal will rather than professional governance standards. The portion of the allegations involving Navarone Garcia is presented in greater detail and with a more direct, practical focus. Cruz and Fial claim that they were required to serve Navarone on an almost full-time basis, not only in a professional management role, but also in handling personal matters. The tasks they allege they performed for Navarone included paying bills, coordinating media and social media activity, managing public relations crises, arranging performance schedules, travel, and logistics. They describe a 24/7 working condition with no boundary between work and personal life and no corresponding compensation. Beyond management duties, Cruz and Fial allege they were asked to intervene in Navarone's personal legal matters, including his divorce proceedings. According to the complaint, Navarone allegedly requested that they pay USD $30,000 to his former fiancée, a sum that the plaintiffs claim was never reimbursed. In addition, the plaintiff's presentation describes Navarone as a recurring source of media crises for the Presley brand. The filing cites social media posts alleged to have been made by Navarone, in which he attacked Lisa Marie Presley with phrases such as "a snake in the grass" and "a master of betrayal," while asserting that even Lisa Marie's own mother did not like her. Cruz and Fial further allege that Navarone continued to damage the Presley image by blaming Lisa Marie for the death of her son, labeling her as gay, out of control, addicted, and financially destitute. According to the plaintiffs, these statements forced them to repeatedly carry out damage control measures to protect the brand. Another allegation raised in the filing concerns Navarone allegedly deceiving older women online in order to solicit money. This claim is not accompanied by any criminal demand, but is included in the lawsuit as part of the argument that Navarone's personal conduct directly created legal and media risks for those working around him. The core issue, as framed by the plaintiffs, centers on control of the Elvis Presley legacy and the related management structures. Cruz and Fial argue that every agreement they entered into was directly affected by internal power struggles within the family, where governance roles were unstable and frequently shifted according to personal conflicts. As presented by the plaintiffs, this instability was accompanied by financial commitments that changed each time the balance of power shifted. From there, the filing turns to the role of Lisa Marie Presley, the direct heir to Elvis's estate. The lawsuit describes Lisa Marie's discovery of irregularities in financial management and trust arrangements, leading to intense confrontation over control of assets. According to the plaintiffs, this period marked an escalation of family conflict while pushing them into handling crises far beyond the scope of the services originally agreed upon. The most shocking aspect of the filing lies in the allegations related to the death of Lisa Marie Presley. According to death records and medical reports published by international media, Lisa Marie Presley suffered cardiac arrest at her home in Calabasas on the morning of January 12, 2023, was transported to West Hills Hospital in Los Angeles, and died later that day at the age of 54. Information confirmed through death records and international press coverage. In the amended complaint, Cruz and Fial cite these medical events alongside their arguments about control of the estate. The filing states that Priscilla Presley, according to the plaintiff's account, was involved in medical decisions regarding the termination of life-sustaining support. These details are placed into the record as legal context, with the argument that the decision occurred despite prior directives and before certain family members could arrive, resulting in an immediate shift in the order of control over the estate. The document also reiterates a statement attributed to Priscilla Presley in this context, used to reinforce the claim that authority over Graceland was exercised according to personal will. These quotations, though not independently verified by documentation, appear in the filing as part of the argument that control and decision-making over Presley assets changed in ways the plaintiffs describe as sudden and harmful to them. At the most sensitive level of the amended filing, the lawsuit directly raises an especially serious allegation. The relationship between Priscilla Presley and her son is described by the plaintiffs using language that implies conduct beyond conventional family norms. The filing offers no publicly presented evidence or corresponding criminal demand, but places this allegation within a description of family dynamics, a foundation the plaintiffs claim created a toxic and untenable working environment. Among the controversial details that appear in the amended version of the filing, the portion involving John Travolta is regarded as the element that pushes the case beyond the familiar boundaries of an ordinary civil dispute. Travolta is not a defendant, nor is he targeted by any legal demand. Nevertheless, his name appears in the document as part of a narrative chain that the plaintiffs say they received from a third party in the context of post-Lisa Marie Presley death negotiations. According to the filing, Cruz and Fial state that Michael Lockwood, Lisa Marie Presley's former husband, approached them after her death. Lockwood is said to have described his own financial distress and that of his twin daughters, while also recounting what he characterized as a secret arrangement related to bearing a child for Travolta and his wife, Kelly Preston. The document asserts that Preston was unable to conceive using her own eggs, and that Riley Keough, Priscilla Presley's granddaughter, donated eggs so that Preston could carry Travolta's youngest son, in exchange for cash and assets. These details are presented in the filing as second-hand accounts, without accompanying medical records, reproductive contracts, or independent verification. According to the plaintiffs, Lockwood used this information as negotiating leverage, intended to exert pressure in financial arrangements connected to the Presley estate. The lawsuit further states that Lockwood is alleged to have implied, without any supporting documentation, that this arrangement was connected to the Church of Scientology. From a legal standpoint, the content above is not accompanied by any criminal demand, does not constitute a formal accusation, and is not intended to draw Travolta into the case as a party. It appears in the filing in what the plaintiffs describe as a role of power dynamics and negotiating leverage, meant to illustrate the degree of overlap between private life, family relationships, and financial disputes that they claim they were drawn into. As soon as these details appeared in the amended complaint, the atmosphere surrounding the case shifted immediately. Excerpts were shared at a slower pace than usual, accompanied by unusually long pauses. Headlines moved away from declarative statements and retreated into conditional phrasing, repeatedly paired with disclaimers of responsibility. According to the lawsuit, unverified, not a defendant. Articles accustomed to the fast rhythm of entertainment news suddenly became cautious, as if each sentence had to be weighed before being written. Questions began to outnumber answers, not whether it is true, but why these things are present in a civil lawsuit. Attention did not focus on searching for evidence, but on the structure of the text itself. Who said what, to whom, and for what purpose? The prevailing feeling was not trust, but discomfort, a kind of discomfort that comes from being compelled to absorb details one is not sure one has the right to know. Meanwhile, Travolta made no statement, issued no rebuttal, and offered no explanation. His work schedule did not change, projects continued, and public appearances proceeded with a normalcy so consistent it appeared almost deliberate. This silence did not resemble panicked avoidance, but rather a boundary already drawn, not stepping into a story that has not been named in legal terms. It is precisely this contrast between the shocking nature of the content and the flatness of reality that leaves the allegation suspended. It produces no immediate consequence, yet it cannot be dismissed. It exists as a layer of interference within the file, forcing readers to linger longer, compelling those who write about it to choose each word carefully, and pushing the story away from the familiar trajectory of a purely financial dispute. It is not accidental that the name John Travolta, despite the fact that he is neither sued nor investigated, causes the entire file to be read more slowly. And to understand why, One has to look at the person and the trajectory he represents. John Travolta was born in 1954 in New Jersey and grew up in a middle-class family with an artistic foundation. His mother was an actress and drama teacher who introduced Travolta to the stage at a very early age and treated performance as a serious discipline rather than a form of entertainment. As the youngest of 6 siblings, Travolta developed a reserved temperament early on, accustomed to observing more than speaking. In his teenage years, he dropped out of high school to pursue acting, a decision made early, deliberately, and closely supervised by his family, laying the groundwork for a lifelong habit of clearly separating private life from public image. He entered Hollywood very young, but his path did not follow the usual stable trajectory. In the late 1970s, Travolta became a rare mass culture phenomenon. From Saturday Night Fever to Grease, he was not merely a movie star, but a symbol of an entire generation of young Americans, confident, energetic, and self-assured. In his early 20s, Travolta had already reached a peak that many actors never achieve in a lifetime. Then the spotlight dimmed almost as quickly as it had flared. Entering the 1980s, his career fell into a prolonged decline. A series of unsuccessful role choices, shifting audience tastes, and industry indifference pushed Travolta to the margins of Hollywood. For many years, he existed as a former star, famous, but no longer central. What stands out is that even during this period, Travolta kept his private life tightly contained. He was not drawn into public scandals and did not engage in the media battles often associated with fallen stars. Travolta's return in the 1990s, particularly with Pulp Fiction, was not merely a professional comeback, but a redefinition of his image. A disciplined, serious actor capable of regaining control of his career. From that point on, even without consistently occupying the box office center, Travolta maintained a stable position, an A-list star, but not flamboyant, present, but not loud. Alongside his career, Travolta's personal life has entered public awareness primarily through loss. The death of his son Jet in 2009, followed by the passing of his wife Kelly Preston in 2020 from cancer, shaped his public image as a man who has endured profound trauma but chosen to confront it in silence. He rarely explains, rarely rebuts rumors, and almost never participates in media debates about his private life. That silence is not avoidance, but a consistent choice maintained over decades. It is precisely because of this journey, from early peak through prolonged decline to quiet resurgence and a fiercely protected private life, that the name John Travolta carries a particular weight. He is not the type of figure who regularly appears in legal filings, and even less so in documents containing sensitive private details. As a result, when his name appears in a civil lawsuit connected to the Presley family, despite not being named as a defendant or witness, the effect lies not in the allegation itself, but in the rupture of expectation. A symbol long associated with control and silence, suddenly placed within a highly unstable narrative structure. Bringing Travolta into the filing was not an endpoint, but a signal that the argumentative strategy was continuing to expand. The document then stretches further back into the past with allegations related to Elvis Presley. The plaintiffs revisit financial disputes from the period when Elvis was still alive and argue that severe economic pressure existed at the time, contributing to a pattern that extended across generations, one in which financial power became intertwined with personal trauma. Elvis's inclusion in this line of argument is not meant to create a new legal claim, but to reinforce the assertion that the current conflicts are not isolated phenomena. What unites all of these allegations is that they are not accompanied by criminal demands, nor are they presented as established facts. Instead, they are deployed to construct a context that the plaintiff's claim caused every attempt at negotiation to fail. The Presley family, though not the original target of the lawsuit, becomes the central backdrop, where the boundary between civil contracts and family crisis is blurred, not as an accidental consequence, but as part of how the filing itself operates. After the amended complaint was made public, the matter was quickly placed into a legal analytical frame. Jeremy Evans, an attorney specializing in sports, entertainment, and media law, noted that the allegations contained in the filing are particularly serious and carry substantial risk when introduced in a civil lawsuit. According to Evans, although Cruz and Fial attached certain messages, documents, and social media posts, the inclusion of such deeply private allegations is more commonly seen in celebrity estate disputes, where opposing sides present sharply conflicting narratives. From a legal perspective, Evans described the case as a form of leverage warfare, in which allegations are used to increase settlement pressure because the risk of public exposure can severely damage reputation and legacy value. The defense responded quickly and decisively. Legal representatives for Priscilla Presley rejected all allegations in the amended complaint, characterizing them as baseless, offensive, and inserted for shock value rather than legal reasoning. According to Priscilla's side, this is not a typical civil dispute pushed too far, but a document constructed to exert public pressure after the plaintiff's financial demands failed to achieve their desired outcome. Priscilla's attorneys emphasized that any relationship between her and Cruz and Fial, if it existed at all, did not constitute a legally binding employment contract. Under this argument, the services the plaintiffs claimed to have provided were not established through formal agreements, lacked clear payment terms, and therefore cannot serve as the foundation for the large compensation claims set out in the lawsuit. The defense argues that Cruz and Fial's description of a 24-7 working arrangement merely reflects their subjective expectations, not obligations accepted by Priscilla Presley through written agreements or specific legal conduct. According to the defense, the absence of a contractual foundation places all compensation claims in the lawsuit, regardless of how shocking the allegations may be, at risk of failing to clear the initial threshold of legal scrutiny. With respect to allegations concerning control over the Presley legacy, Priscilla's side contends that she acted within the scope of her lawful role and authority, particularly in a context where Elvis Presley's estate has undergone multiple phases of managerial restructuring. The defense argues that the plaintiff's portrayal of governance decisions as arbitrary or personal represents a one-sided interpretation that does not fully reflect the complex legal and financial context the Presley family has faced. The allegations relating to the death of Lisa Marie Presley were met with the strongest objection from the defense. Priscilla's attorneys assert that all medical decisions made during Lisa Marie's hospitalization followed professional medical judgment and lawful procedures, and were not driven by financial motives or power struggles. According to Priscilla's side, the plaintiff's insertion of medical developments into a civil lawsuit over money constitutes a serious misrepresentation that risks harming reputations and distorting the nature of the case. Regarding attributed statements such as, "I am the Queen, I rule Graceland," the defense neither confirms their authenticity nor accepts their framing, arguing that such quotations are taken out of context, if not entirely inferred by the plaintiffs. According to counsel, statements that are not officially recorded or independently verified cannot be considered a reliable basis for inferring motive or legal conduct. As for allegations directed at Navarone Garcia, the defense argues that Cruz and Fial deliberately conflated personal issues with a civil dispute in order to create an image of chaos and toxicity around the Presley family. Priscilla's attorneys deny that Navarone had any legal obligation toward the plaintiffs and emphasize that any interactions, if they occurred, did not constitute an employment relationship or financial commitment. Allegations concerning social media, personal life, and purported misconduct by Navarone are described by the defense as outside the scope of adjudication and not directly relevant to the compensation claims advanced by Cruz and Fiel. Overall, Priscilla Presley's position remains consistent on one point. The lawsuit, particularly the amended version, has moved far beyond resolving a civil dispute and into the realm of personal defamation. The defense argues that the inclusion of sensitive allegations, from family life to unverified details, serves not to strengthen legal claims, but to gain strategic advantage, while the ultimate legal outcome can only be determined in court. On the other side, legal representatives for Cruz and Fiel reject the characterization of the lawsuit as defamatory. According to the plaintiff's side, the controversial details were not introduced for sensational effect, but to fully reflect the context that they claim directly shaped the working relationship and the resulting damages. Counsel for Cruz and Fiel emphasizes that the lawsuit is not intended to adjudicate private lives, but to clarify the record, to establish a chain of events and the role of each individual within a power structure that they allege caused all financial agreements to collapse. Once both sides had presented their full arguments, the case moved out of the media arena and into the only forum empowered to determine its value: the courtroom. There, the story is no longer read as a series of shocking disclosures, but is dismantled into elements that can be evaluated under legal standards. In actual litigation, a judge is not obligated to accept everything presented in a complaint, particularly private life details that are not directly tied to claims for compensation. The law allows the court to strike, redact, or require revision of portions deemed irrelevant, prejudicial, or unsupported by evidentiary standards. This means that a significant portion of the controversial content in the amended filing may never be considered at the merits stage. Structurally, the lawsuit now faces two parallel paths. In the first scenario, the court may narrow the dispute back to its original essence: a civil conflict over services, compensation, and payment obligations. In that case, allegations about family dynamics, power, and personal motives would remain only as background that has been stripped away, with no bearing on the final judgment. In the second scenario, the court may accept that family context and power structures are inseparable from the working relationship described by the plaintiffs. In that case, certain aspects of private life, without moral judgment, could be retained to clarify motive, roles, and the sequence of decisions leading to the alleged harm. This is the delicate line the court must weigh between protecting privacy and fully understanding the legal context. Either way, the focus of adjudication does not rest on confirming or refuting shocking narratives, but on a narrower and colder question: whether a legal obligation existed, and if so, to what extent it was breached. At this point, the lawsuit has moved beyond the control of any individual involved. What began as a dispute over money and services has transformed into a document layered with multiple narratives, each serving a different strategic purpose. Under the plaintiff's approach, expanding the filing is not intended to persuade emotionally, but to ensure that the sequence of events is presented without being detached from the context they claim governed the legal obligations. This lawsuit does not reveal the truth to the public. It reveals only one thing: when fame, money, and law collide, truth is no longer told in sequence, but by strategy.